We'll see what will be the first pick out from Ocelote's team here.
Yeah, so Shyvana has been banned out, and most likely we'll see one of the champions who has not been banned out, because there are kind of like the top tier picks in the moment, and there are so many of them that you'll end up getting some really good picks regardless of what happens during the banning phase.
Now, Elise has been locked in. Where will our second set of picks go? There's quite a lot available here for Gunwaaa to select from. Quite a few AD carries and support still available. Annie, Lucian and Jinx all still on the cards.
Indeed, and Stress is a couple seconds in front of me because I am casting over the stream just for the duration of Champion Select, and when we get into game I'll be reading from the same page as you guys, so that won't be an issue, and Elise will be the first pickup.
Yeah, and still waiting on the picks here out of Gunwaaa. Still trying to decide what exactly they want to select as their first two. I believe we're just talking through a couple of rules here. So, Lucian and Thresh have been picked up.
Yeah, indeed, and Stress is a little bit distracted right now as we just handle some internal issues, so I'm going to try and fill in the gaps as best I can during this Champion Select. But Elise is a very solid pickup as your first pick, because there's very little that she suffers against. She's a little bit ambiguous, but mostly going to be in the jungle, because in Season 3 we did see her played a little bit in the top lane, a little bit in the mid lane, and sometimes in the jungle as well, but now it is just primarily jungle, but there is that ambiguity about that, so that you can say, okay, well, we don't want Elise in the jungle when we have this open or that open, but there's very little that Elise doesn't do well against anymore.
And now Ocelot has locked in Riven, is Morden maybe looking over for Caitlyn here as the AD carry, and that will get locked in as well, as Gunwaaa now looking for an alternative pickup here. Well, they've got two options. Well, they've got obviously two picks here. Sorry, I'm a little bit distracted as we're just talking through the logistics of Rengar. Of course, he's available on the live client, but there's a couple of little issues with his kit that we're just discussing whether he should be available for this tournament. So we will get that sorted out, but I believe there may even be a gentleman's agreement here between the two teams not to select Rengar.
Yeah, indeed. We'll see if these guys do it. But yeah, indeed, the Riven has been picked up, which can be in the mid lane, can be in the top lane. Caitlyn, again, in response to the Lucian, because no one really wants to have to deal with the Lucian's trading potential. There are ways to kind of avoid that, but Caitlyn is one of the easiest because you have the longer range and the better harassment. And then Riven in the top lane or mid lane, just depending on how the next couple picks go.
Yeah, sorry about that. Again, just resolving that little issue. Vi has been locked in alongside Gragas. So again, Gragas very consistent in that mid lane. And Vi we've seen time and time again today. And that leaves us with our last pickups here for Lololol. They're looking for a support, and I would imagine, it's either going to be top or a mid laner. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Riven mid. We have seen that a fair amount already over the last few weeks.
Yeah, and it shows us exactly why they decided to ban out the 6 as well, since they are going to pick up the Riven. There's a couple of picks which can be difficult for Riven to deal with, but Gragas is going to be a little annoying, but it's not going to completely decimate the lane.
Now, Annie has been hovered over alongside Syndra, and Syndra is a champion we haven't seen all day and really relies on that heavy burst damage in the mid lane, has one of the highest burst damages available at level 6 when that power unleashed comes available, and Annie will get locked in for Dude. So Caitlyn and Annie is the bottom lane, and we're waiting on our last pick here from Gunwaaa.
These are some very confident pickups here, Stress. I mean, Syndra, the reason she's just not played very much is that she's risky in the sense she's a very hard champion to play. And a lot of matchups can swing in the way of Syndra. It's just that it's very difficult when there's a lot of mid laners which are comparably easier. And again, with Riven, it's a very ballsy play because Riven is a high skill cap champion, can be in the top lane, can be in the mid lane. We'll just have to see where these fall.
Now, they're hovering over Jax as the final pickup. Of course, they can safely assume that Riven should be the top laner here for Ocelot's team. Now, they will lock Jax in, and that Jax-Riven matchup isn't exactly the most standard matches, but of course, it is JWoww that is the top laner for Lololol, aka Ocelot's team, so no stranger to playing some of the more obscure top lane matchups.
Yeah, not at all. So we do have the hover over the LeBlanc at the moment. Do inform me if that changes, but the LeBlanc versus the Syndra matchup is very similar because they both just try and burst each other down, but it most likely looks like they're going to lock in that Jax, as you previously mentioned.
Yeah, that is what they indeed did settle on, because of course Gragas is in the mid lane for Gunwaaa already. So how will this game go? Of course, you've got the experience on the side of Ocelot's team with players like JWoww, Morden, Ocelot, Dude, and Yuki, and that's quite an intimidating team to go up against if you're the more unknown team of Gunwaaa. So that's really what we'll be looking for here in game number 1.
Yeah, and while they are very talented as individual players, the team of Gunwaaa potentially have been together longer, so they have the experience advantage onto Ocelot's team.
Yeah, and that really is a bit of a wildcard factor, but we are into the delay period, guys, so we're going to go for a very short break here as we load into the game. Please stick with us here for game number 1 between Lololol. This is... Welcome back to the Scan Invitational, powered by Creative Sound Blaster, Be Quiet, and Netgear. We're into our last best of 3 of the day, and it's Lololol, also known as Ocelot's team, as we've dubbed it. Apologies to the rest of his team. It's the easiest way of recognizing the team. Up against a very last-minute replacement of Gunwaaa. Unfortunately, Intellectual Playground weren't able to make the tournament. They told us earlier today that they couldn't field a complete roster. So rather than have a forfeit win and take the opportunity to see Ocelot's team in action, we've found our good replacement in the form of Gunwaaa.
Absolutely, and it means I won't murder Intellectual Playground's name and say intellectual property, which I have said so many times. But either way, not going to be too much of an issue. And Jax has 700 and something HP. That's a lot.
That is quite a lot with that Doran Shield start. Now, those of you that are in chat, I know you're professing your love for Ocelot, but if you can take a couple of minutes out of your time, we are doing a giveaway for a Creative Evo ZX headset, which I'm sure some of our mods in chat will be posting about how you can win that in just a couple of minutes. So make sure that you head over to Twitter and send out the tweet with hashtag LoveScan to all of our sponsors as well. So check out the Scan Computers Twitter, the Scan Gaming Twitter, and we'll be able to pick a winner just at the end of this best of 3 series, where one of you will win a Creative Evo ZX headset.
Okay, so again, we're going to see these very common starts, and Dafcio will... I almost read that as Deficio. Dafcio will be picking up the blue buff and moving his way to the red buff, which is a little more of an uncommon start, but signals that he may want to go for that early gank onto the top lane and try and shut down the Riven, which would make a lot of sense.
There we go. The information is in the chat there for all of our viewers, and as you said, it's one of those situations that... you just got to wonder how it's going to go from here, whether the experience of Ocelot's team in solo capacity and in other teams is going to outweigh the experience of Gunwaaa from being quite a well-established team.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see if that individual skill pays dividends, as Dialed is already zoning away the Fresh and the Lucian and the lore there, but the auto attacks come down, and it's all literally about the engage versus poke, which we don't see every lane anymore. It was something we saw a lot in Season 3, where you'd have a very engage-centric composition in the bot lane, and then a poke composition, and it looks like the poke is winning through at the moment.
You can see that just that zoning early from Dude has allowed them to set up the lane and really start pushing this in. They've already got Lucian away from the minion wave in 14 CS to 8 so far, so already a slight advantage for Ocelot's team. How will they convert that? Ocelot finds a barrel there from Gragas, but Syndra against Gragas, again, not the most standard of matchups here.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a skill matchup. Syndra can definitely win this. Indeed, the early damage is insane. Level 3 already looking for the all-in, and Ivorek gets dropped below 10%. Both of the junglers finding themselves in the jungle of Dafcio. Indeed, he will just sit around and see if he can just collect this Wraith off of Morden as he just tries to push Vi backwards, but Vi does not want to get into a 1 versus 1 duel.
Yeah, and speaking of the skill lanes, you saw there Ocelot very comfortable in that lane, flashing forward to make sure he didn't take the damage from the barrel, also to look to play aggressively. So Ocelot seems to be fairly confident in that matchup already, and we'll see how that translates as this game continues.
Yeah, so Riven has a slight CS advantage, nothing really to write home about at this stage, Stress, but he can definitely pull ahead early game and make it very difficult for Jax to do very much else. Jax, if he gets ahead early, is exactly what he needs, and that's kind of why we expected a little bit of jungler intervention in the form of Vi, but she was unable to do anything because of a large minion stack at that time.
Ocelote has gone back and picked himself up a second Doran's Ring, which has been mirrored by Gragas, so I wonder how that lane will play out. Of course, both will get a lot of burst damage at level 6 with that Power Unleashed becoming available, as will the Explosive Cask, and it's really the presence of Dafcio, I nearly read it as Deficio there, as he hits level 6 again. It's that critical point on Vi of where Assault and Battery becomes available, but Ocelote gets dropped in the mid lane for first blood.
Indeed, and a very slick gank, just nuking him down immediately, so Gragas will have that bit of a safety net. Already 10 CS down, but the kill will more than offset that.
Now, how is JWoww faring in this top lane? And the matchup of Riven versus Jax is a little bit of a unique matchup, because Jax normally favors himself against AD-focused champions, but a lot of Riven's damage actually comes from her abilities. Yes, she does get extra damage from the auto-attacks, of course, as you would expect from an AD champion, but a lot of the damage does come from her skills, so I'm wondering how that lane will continue to play out here, because Jax was the pick after Riven.
Yeah, there's a ton of counterplay, but more importantly, Vi looking for this gank and just looks to clear out the minion wave instead. But when Riven can just easily stun down Jax when he's also looking to use his own stun, everyone just stands still and then she just re-engages. And that's usually when he just looks to capitalize. Dialed has been dragged into the bottom lane, but Kathy has been dropped low. Yuki was pushing forwards with those auto attacks and moves into the shield. Will be fresh as he just shields himself up.
Yeah, and Yuki is somewhat of a recent addition to Ocelote's team. They were previously playing with Freeze, who was on the NIP roster, who now you have to wonder, will they remain a part of Ocelote's team after NIP did not, in fact, qualify today for the LCS. Apologies if there are any spoilers on that one, but if you are in the Twitterverse, I'm sure you are aware exactly of what happened earlier in the LCS promotions, but meanwhile, in this game, it's Yuki who is the AD carry and is already doing a good job, has a slight lead, and they're controlling the lane very well.
Yeah, there's a slight lead all over the board for Ocelote's team, and right now, I feel like Gunwaaa, the later this goes, are just going to find it difficult, because a CS lead over like a kill lead signals that they're just being mechanically outplayed in these lanes, rather than anything else. And even though that first blood has gone down onto Ocelote, and Gragas has picked that up, the fact that he's constantly losing farm through each wave is going to start adding up.
JWoww returns to the top lane, has himself a pickaxe here, so we'll have that extra damage to try and trade with Jax, who's picked up a little bit more survivability in the form of a Vampiric Scepter, so not quite as much damage, but we'll have that lifesteal. Both mid laners, actually only Ocelote is level 6 here in this middle lane, so he's beaten Gragas to it. I wonder whether we'll see a situation where he tries to engage, but as Gragas picks up the next wave, hits level 6, and transitions over to pick up his blue buff.
Yeah, that's typically the opening where we'll see one of the laners, specifically like a burst mage like Syndra, or indeed Gragas hitting level 6 first and looking for the kill. We saw that last game in the last series, Stress, where Gragas had level 6 before Exler on KO, I believe it was, and was just able to nuke him down before that happened. So this time we do see Dafcio moving into the bottom bus, but has been warded up. So the play right here from Ocelote's team is to try and waste as much time as he possibly can.
And both teams have had fairly consistent wards out. Meanwhile, in the top lane, JWoww will pick himself up a kill.
These are some very fast interactions between these players for the kills, so it's almost impossible to like play-by-play them, and he was just like, oh, he's dead.
It was a big win slash. I believe it was right on the edge of being able to kill or just leaving him on a couple of health. So a great play out of JWoww from knowing exactly where the damage is going to come from and how much it's going to be.
Yep, Dafcio in the jungle looking to take this away, wards himself to try and get that vision for the smite, knocks him back using Scatter Weak, and Ocelote will just take that away with force of will.
Now, Ocelote's team are looking to play aggressive, as you said, in that top lane, just trying to control as much of this game as possible. They have themselves 1,000 gold lead so far, and that predominantly is well, it looks like it's in the solo lanes. There's 80 CS to 48 and 72 to 44. So good control already, even though there was that kill in the middle lane. The lanes are winning out already for Ocelote's team.
Yeah, and that's gradually going to become an issue, but not right now. And during the laning phase, Vi is still an incredibly strong jungler, has in fact hit level 6. Tibbers will be duped in the bottom lane, and now the death sentence follows up. Box comes down, and the culling through onto Dial. Yuki's trying to actually block this with his face. It's not going to be quite enough. Will be flayed back into his AD carry. Auto attack comes in, and the minions will not be enough to finish him off. Double kill for that bottom lane.
And it shows the potency of a lane like Lucian and Thresh, that even though they're getting zoned just a little bit, if they step out of line, they can land that hook on to Yuki and Dude and really just capitalize on that. And that turns that lane right on its head. 2-0 for Lucian now.
Yeah, and we often say it's not typical for a lane by itself to die without a jungler's intervention. And they did. And that has completely changed how that lane is going to go. It's completely shifted it. The fact he was losing his CS, he's now winning his CS, and he's 2 kills over Caitlyn. So he's going to be quite happy and probably able to pick up a Bloodthirster fairly shortly if that's what he's looking for.
And I think you've got to pin that down to the missed Tibbers. Had Tibbers landed, that would have been a completely different fight. So maybe Dude... the nerves are getting maybe to him in this first game that they've played together in a competitive environment.
Yeah, that's very true. A competitive environment to a new team is something that can really pay on the nerves, and has already shown because they are behind in those kills. But the mechanical skill is definitely still there with the CS advantage in top and mid lane. Dragon has, well, spawned very early into the game, but is still alive and will become a factor in the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where I'm like, at 15 minutes, I see Baron spawn, and I'm like, Baron's up? Oh, wait, it's spawn time. Of course it's up. But Morden will clear out pink wards. Sometimes that pink ward spot ends up going unseen for a while if you don't cross through it with attack moves set on. So good clearing out there from Morden, just making sure that they're keeping the vision down from Gunwaaa as much as possible.
Yeah, often it's not something players look for anymore, because it's like you just don't expect wards to be visible because of the new season. You just click to your location, look at the shop, and then you've just walked past a vision ward. It's something that happens surprisingly often. But in the bottom lane, again, Lucian is actually able, even though he's standing behind his own minions, to be very aggressive. Because Caitlyn and Dowd cannot be aggressive, because if they get hooked, then they lose the trade. And they're also trying to bait out this gank from Elise, and they're also trying to bait out the gank from Vi, and nothing actually lands, so everyone just backs up.
Mind games upon mind games here from both teams, and Lucian's just happy sitting behind minions using Piercing Light to try and harass. So, you know, the winner in that one is Lucian, by the fact that he just got to farm a little bit there without being under too much pressure. Again, top lane trading back and forth. Most of the damage is going on to Jax, and you can see in the bottom lane, Morden is hanging around here. He's using a lot of time, and now a pick here would open up the dragon for Ocelote's team.
Yeah, he's committing a lot, but it's definitely worth it. Flash Tibbers lands onto 2, Box comes down, instantly detonating Kathy, and that Tibbers has been hooked into the tower, so we'll see if we can pick up that 50 gold.
And that's exactly what they were looking for. They pick off Kathy, who is a big damage dealer now, so they have the option of tower or dragon. It looks like they want to take tower, and they may even play greedy and go tower and then dragon. They do have a fair amount of damage here.
And they do have a fair amount of time with Kathy only just respawning. Vi's around the area. Greg is good at trying to deny dragons, not only because of the burst damage, but everyone's clustered up. Everyone will be hit by explosive cask. So it's something they could make a play over, especially with the fresh lantern. We'll see what they do.
Yeah, and they had 2 red trinkets available, those sweepers, so key to clearing out areas like this dragon. It means they can even take down the second ward should they choose to. I don't think that Gunwaaa can contest here, and up in the top lane, JWoww is trying to take the tower, but here comes Jax.
Yep, and actually taking a lot of this turret aggro for his troubles. Jax just needs 2 more auto attacks to finish off that kill, and will not be able to go for it in time. I feel like if JWoww hadn't tanked all those turret shots, he might have been able to go for that dive, but either way, small nitpicks.
Yeah, possibly so, but it's just one of those things that I think JWoww is also trying to bait Jax forward, because if he can land damage, you can see JWoww is already starting to regen that up with the Vampiric Scepter of his own, which he did recently pick up. So he's managed to sustain himself back up, and now will take down that turret with the minions alone, and Jax is on the back foot.
Indeed. So already Dacio has picked up the spirit of the Elder Lizard, which is kind of a tell in how he's going to play this game. He feels like he needs to push for the early game, has already jumped onto Riven. The Assault and Bash is also going to be used for good measure. One more auto attack should pick this one up, and Jax doesn't even get an assist.
And that's just a crazy turn of events all over the map to not get the assist on that. It's just one of those things that Jax, because he was forced back earlier, just wasn't in position. Hydra has been completed now on to Riven. As Gunwaaa maybe look to go aggressive in this top lane. The minions are joining them, and they do have a fair amount of damage should they choose to push on, but Morden is here to defend.
Yeah, so Dacio, he's gone for this very aggressive item build, meaning he'll continue to try and go for these ganks. They might even try to prolong the laning phase to try and get more ganks off, and just see if he can have a bigger impact on the game before going for his tank build. Unless he just decides to go like the Meteor style and just go full damage and see what happens, but we'll see what he does.
Yeah, well, that's the question overall, but Morden is looking to clear out and go aggressive once again into that top jungle for Gunwaaa. The more he can take away from Vi, the better off that they can be here, and won't actually head up. As you can see, Gragas has already cut him off, so Vi will attempt to secure her own red buff. Nobody around to contest that, so it looks like junglers are just going to retreat back and secure their own jungle.
Yeah, despite Vi doing well, it's still worth making that defensive play of Gragas just to make sure, because Vi will always continue to be out-traded by Elise even at this stage in the game, so it's just worth the time commitment.
Dude and Morden now heading around this bottom jungle area, looking to see whether blue has spawned, but with that bottom lane tower, it means that that Morden and Dude can really just establish good ward control here around the lower jungle of Gunwaaa, and that's going to make it very difficult for Gunwaaa to take any trades.
They found themselves Jaywall, but Jaywall's found himself Kathy. Wind Slash comes out, not quite enough flashes out of the Dark Sphere through the Force of Will. Morden from the backside though, along with Dial, see if they have enough CC to lock him down. Big Gragas barrel backs him off into the turret, but doesn't quite take the aggro. Uses Bladed Rune Kick for the healing. Not going to be enough. Ocelote picks up another. Dialdus knocks him down. There's this chain CC, but with Mystiques comes from the side, picks up another kill onto Morden, drags Ivek back into the fight. Culling comes through. Another couple clip Diald, and that will be a favorable engage for Gunwaaa.
Really nice turnaround there from Gunwaaa from that team fight. They managed to lantern Gragas back into the fight to pick up Ocelote, as he was fairly low from trying to chase out around the side. However, Yuki wasn't in that fight at all, and you can see the tower has fallen, so the gold trade is actually fairly even, and maybe even in favor of Ocelote's team.
Yeah, they're not winning these fights, and it's kind of gotten to the point where they just want to give up on that and just push these objectives. And they can split push very effectively. They have two fantastic split pushes. In that case, Yuki was just able to just carry on pushing while the fight ensued in mid lane. So that was a very easy play for them to make. Jax doesn't necessarily want to be dragged away from his 1v1 because he is known as like a strong duelist. But because he's behind, he can't actually fulfill that role and has to go for the weaker role of a team fighter.
Interesting to see the itemization here from the junglers. Elise, as you would expect, building fairly tanky enough in that top lane. There's another trade by Jax and Riven, and Jax may even have the best of this as Dacio comes over the wall and picks up that final kill. But I was about to mention that the difference between Spirit of the Ancient Golem and Elder Lizard, but here comes Dude in the bottom lane looking for the stun.
You will get to finish this point at some point, Stress, and Mystiques will, in fact, just get deleted, and Yuki will be the one claiming that.
Yeah, I thought that might have been a bigger engage, but yeah, basically Vi, rather than building the Ancient Golem for extra tankiness and the tenacity, has built Elder Lizard, which is going to give him more damage, but Ocelote is in trouble.
At some point. But Ocelote just pushed back to his turret, Body Slam comes through, and the barrel roll picks it up and will not be enough to take him down.
Yeah, Power Unleashed was onto Gragas, and it's slightly unfortunate that the turret wasn't aggroed onto Gragas, otherwise that would have been a kill. I finished that point, it's okay. We can move past it now.
Yeah, the commentator's curse means that if you do start a point, then you will split it up into 3 or 4 smaller points because of action, but the middle tower will be starting to get sieged. Yuki is just coming from the bottom lane as well. Dacio does not want any part of that.
Yeah, Yuki's really showing us some quite smart rotations, knowing where he can push down turrets and push lanes. You see him rotate instantly as soon as it's available. They take it down another turret, secure the blue buff from their opponents, And now they look to consolidate around Dragon as it spawns in 15 seconds.
Yeah, it's interesting that Jax is converging around this area as well, considering Riven was pushing top, but Gunwaaa, in fact, does not go any further. He's also going to join the team for this team fight. He will offer slightly more to the team fight than Jax, that's most likely why. And the wave was pushed up so Jax could just sit in the top lane and be a threat because he's going to take their turret.
It's one of those things that Jax is going to scale very well, even though he's fairly behind, whereas Riven doesn't have the best scaling unless he's getting a lot of kills. And at 1-3-1, those kills haven't really come out as much as they need to. Yes, there's a CS lead of 40 in that top lane, but Jax just is going to scale better naturally. But there's a big fight about to burst over Dragon.
Yeah, that will be the Dragon secured from the red team, but now the initiate Yuki drops. Huge barrel from Gragas as well off to the side. Ocelote is being zoned away. Die out also lands the stun. They should be able to pick up this kill. He's waiting for the body slam, in fact lands it. But Gunwaaa in from the side doesn't even matter because Dark Sphere picks up the kill.
You can see there Ocelote's team just confidently trading 4 for 1, and they may even look to rotate here towards the Baron. That's a good call, actually. I mean, we've seen a couple of early Baron attempts from, I believe it was Millennium attempted it as well, and there's no reason that they can't do this right now.
Yeah, absolutely, because the Baron is dropping very quickly. They have Elise on their team. They have a lot of single target damage. Dashio still has the ward, but only for a couple seconds. In fact, it's already timed out. Dashio, they're just going to stop the Baron and just kill him, then rotate back onto it. Will it be enough time for the rest of the team to rotate? The answer is no. And Mystique's tries his best, but the death sentence will not clean the Baron.
And that's a very important Baron being picked up for Ocelote's team. It really consolidates their lead even further now, nearly 6,000 gold. And the extra damage in team fights is going to make their already strong team fighting presence of all of the players even better, because they're now going to have that amplified damage and the regen in between team fights as well.
Yeah, so that Baron timing was absolutely perfect. It means they can go for those team fights, as you already mentioned. And or rather, Riven is just mounting up items. He's still probably... Actually, I'm not sure who wins that trade between Riven and Jax. He's better itemized than Ahead in CS, but Jax has just been farming away. He's still probably stronger in a duelist situation, which is really where Jax starts to shine, because when you get into a team fight with Jax, he's more easily kited than some of the, perhaps the other top laners right now.
Yeah, he needs to be able to stick on to the AD carry, and any carry, in fact, and pick them off as fast as possible. We'll pick up a red buff, so that'll help him stick to his target, as of course that will provide the slow. But after picking up the Baron now, it looks like Ocelote's team just want to push out as many waves as they can, take the map control back, get the vision in their favor, and then look to start sieging up towers. And I wonder whether they're going to have Riven split push into that top lane, because that looks like what he's positioned to do right now.
With the Baron, they can afford to play the slower game. They do not have to go for team fights or indeed try and force team fight. They can just split push with several of their members, maybe even try and find a pick here and there, but they do not need to make power plays. And especially when the kind of trades have not been going in their favor, because Gunwaaa have shown they are very confident in mechanics when it comes to small skirmishes and indeed team fights. So they may not just go for a power play, they may just try to play it safe.
I have a feeling, though, that Ocelote's team are looking to rotate quite quickly here. They baited about 4 members up to the top lane and now have rotated down to mid before committing to anything. And we'll get an uncontested tower from this. Will there be a follow-up engage out of Gunwaaa? I kind of feel like taking an engage right now against the Baron up Ocelote's team would not be the best thing to do.
Yeah, as soon as they delete the turret, it just removes the ability for Gunwaaa to go for a fight. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see Ocelote's team either one try to get a pick, which would be perfect onto Vi. The stun lock has already come out. Tibbers will get hooked once again, and actually not culling to death. Tibbers will live to fight another day.
I have seen the bear Tibbers. It is on very low health, but Tibbers eating the culling there is actually fairly good for Ocelote's team anyway. It had already done its job. You already had the stun and the damage come out from it, so the fact that members of Ocelote's team didn't eat the culling means that they haven't really required that extra regen that the Baron's going to give them. They take down another tower, 6 towers to 1 now in favor of Ocelote's team, as they have about an 8,000 gold lead.
Yeah, it's really started to accelerate the game in favor of Ocelote's team, and now that those outer turrets are down, the next objective is just simply one of the inhibitor turrets, which is easier said than done. It's very difficult to take them down, especially when you have a Gragas on the team. It can completely disrupt you as you're trying to take that out. But Caitlyn has such good sieging potential. This is one of the situations where Ocelot's team does very well. They just have good siege, they have good disengage, good engage if they can see the opportunity. So it's just a matter of Gunwaaa trying their best to find that that gap in the armor.
There's a lot of discussion in chat about why we're calling Lololol Ocelote's team. It's not out of disrespect to the rest of the players on Ocelot's team at all. We obviously recognize that all the players on that team are very well established. It's just when we contacted Ocelot for a name for the team, Lololol is a very difficult thing to say while in mid-flow, so it's purely out of convenience, and we do apologize that that is what we're calling the team, but unfortunately it's one of those things that it can be a bit tricky to say.
For lack of a better option, we do not want to be saying lololol during team fights and and other things. So that's the reason, if anyone was wondering.
Yeah, and of course, as we said, no disrespect to the rest of the members. It could easily have been JWoww's team.
Yeah, of course. or any of those players. So again, as we mentioned, it's most likely going to be Ocelot's team pushing down the middle lane, or just pushing a lane and trying their best to chip away at these turrets, because there's very little on the boards that will drag the team of Gunwaaa out. Baron is not going to be spawning for another couple minutes. Dragon is up in about 20 seconds, but is not an objective you want to be taking, or moving out of your base for, I should say.
Yeah, exactly. With it spawning in 10 seconds, we talked earlier that Dragon is worth a little bit more, but not really worth losing the game over. As I have a feeling that if Gunwaaa push out too far, they could get caught unless they can land a very nice Greg assault. I mean, Baron buff has worn off, so they don't have the amplified damage in team fights, but it looks like they're just going to take a play out of Fnatic's book and look to pick one off as they cross through this mid lane.
That's probably their best play at this point, and like, rather than just being slowly chipped away at and eventually taken down, why not just try and go for a pick, flash forward? The hook will not land onto Yuki. It was kind of a gap between the flash and the death sentence, so Yuki had time to say, oh, and then instantly use his E. The Talisman Ascension has been used. Gragas Power flashes forward. Dafsio onto the back line, still trying to take down Yuki, but will be returning with those auto attacks. Dragons takes down Ocelot, and meanwhile, 1-for-1 trade is the best they could hope for. Dafsio drops low. He will not burn out quite yet. Dial has been locked down into the box as well. Does not want to be popping that flash forward into the Incinerate. Morden picks up another using Venomous Bite. Another with the auto attacks from Caitlyn. And now Kathy is the last one standing. Can he pick up the kill onto these players? I don't actually think the damage came out from his Q. The animation, but not the damage.
And that was probably the best fight that Gunwaaa could have anticipated there. It was 5v4. They got a Greg assault, which really disrupted the team of Lololol. But Riven wasn't even in that fight, and it still went heavily in favor of Lololol. And even though they won't get too much from this, here comes JWoww back onto Dafsio.
Yep, I don't think he's going to last for too long. In fact, he just stands there and takes it, because there was nowhere he was going to run to. And the rest of the team of Ocelot's team will just back on off.
I'm trying to consciously call them Lololol a bit more now, but...
yeah, it's sometimes easier and sometimes mostly not, but...
Oh, the name... Not to complain, but Dafsio is also so close to Deficio that I keep reading it as Deficio, but Ocelot will secure his own blue buff, trying to kite away so as not to take any damage at all, but he did take one auto attack there from the blue buff. However... Lololol are looking once again at this Baron for a point of contention. They haven't got any inhibitor towers down, so they're not really able to secure this without any kind of contest from Gunwaaa. But if they were able to pick up 1 or 2 members off, they could easily get this Baron and then maybe look to snowball through one inhibitor.
Yeah, so Lololol sitting around the Baron pit. As you can hear, I say that with disdain, and Mystique will in fact take the ace in the hole. Did not quite get the shield in time, and Baron is still on the board. That's the only thing that's going to drag Gunwaaa out of their base, and that's it. They need to not get caught at this stage, but at the same time, they cannot afford to keep conceding objectives, especially like Baron, because it will just make it easier for them to take that elusive inhibitor turret. But it stayed alive for a very long time, but they do not want to keep trying to stall out the game when they're not necessarily getting stronger anytime soon.
And a good read of the map here by Lololol. They've anticipated that they had forced Gunwaaa back to their base already. That's an uncontested Baron again, and there are so many uncontested objectives, and as you said, they don't really have a choice, but at the same time, every time they give an objective, it seriously hurts their chances of coming back into this game.
Yeah, and now the Baron has fallen, that's exactly what's happened, and they just have to try and roll with it. And their team fight under tower is very good, they have a lot of CC, Jax does well when people are going towards him, and the pause timer comes in naturally as they head towards his turret, and the tension will just increase.
Yeah, Gunwaaa look like they may have a little bit of lag issues or something. They haven't quite said what's wrong. Hopefully we'll get this resolved fairly quickly, but this gives us a good time to inform you guys of how you can get your hands on a creative Evo ZX headset. I believe our mods in chat should be putting in the exclamation mark headset command into chat. That'll tell you how to win a headset. I believe it's you just copy the tweet and head over to Twitter, and we'll be picking a winner later today, actually, at the end of this best of 3, so not very long to get your entries in to win yourselves an Evo ZX headset.
Yeah, so stick around, and there's not long to go until the best of 3 is up, so just stick around and we should have this delay timing out very quickly, and we will be going live in 2 seconds.
Yeah, the pause just in time with the unpause has allowed us to get our headset competition plug out there. But to recap, Lololol, aka Ocelote's team, have themselves the Baron buff here as they look to siege this inner tower. Annie has travelled off down to the blue buff to see if it is available. They've ordered it, and they have spotted that it is there, but I think the eyes on the prize right now is perhaps the inhibitor turret. Ocelote has dropped back to pick up that blue buff, but the rest of the team has kept up the pressure in the mid lane.
Yeah, so the blue team is just kind of sitting around the mid lane, trying their best to just poke away at them. In fact, Ace in the Hole is going to be used just to try and whittle them down, because it's not going to do anything else at this stage, especially when a team fight is most likely off the cards unless someone massively trips up. And JWoww just, again, trying to get that vision, pushing down the middle lane, and we'll see if they can actually get to the point where they can push them completely away from that turret. Already chunking down 25% HP, that's not too bad.
There's a lot of wave clear out from Gunwaaa, though. With the barrels coming from Gragas and the piercing light out of Lucian, they are able to really halt the aggression for a little while here. But is it going to be enough to hold the Baron buff team if Lololol chose to engage?
Well, Baron is still alive on this team, and they are slowly chipping away at this turret. We'll see if they can get the hook. In fact, onto the perfect person of Yuki. Knocks him back, instantly deleted by Jax. And now they're just jumping onto Diode. It's just cleanup time for this team. However, Riven lands a huge wind slash onto 2. Picks up another 2-for-2 trade. Mystique's dropped very low indeed. And they will actually just carry on trying to push this in. In fact, top lane and bottom lane are pushing. And they might just be able to rotate with that superior wave.
Yeah, they dropped off the map for a second, and they will head up to the top lane. They've got a fair amount of damage to take down this turret, but that was a really nice catch from Thresh onto Yuki. Made sure that they took off that big damage dealer, and they're looking for it again.
Yep, Jax has dropped very low, flash forward into Key Burst, will pick up another. Morden will seal that. And now Mystique's along with Kathy are just trying desperately to keep this inhibitor alive, but the inhibitor will spell the beginning of the end, because it will be easier to try and siege these turrets as it is requiring 5 people to keep themselves alive. Dafcio pushes himself forwards, but Ocelote knocks him away with E.
They didn't quite get that inhibitor either. That would have really been a difficult one for Gunwaaa to come back from, but it's just that Ocelote's team, Lololol, are really just making the most out of every engage. Even if they're trading even, they're making sure that they're following up by taking down objectives, and you can see that the itemization really tells the story of the gold lead. Not even a last whisper finished onto Lucian, whereas on the other side you can see more than 2 full items completed for Caitlyn. Ocelote himself at 267 CS with 5 kills has himself a Deathfire Grasp and a Rabadon's Death Cap with a Void Staff as well, so plenty of damage coming out from Lololol.
Yeah, and Riven has actually just picked up the Warmog's armor as well. So it's just general tankiness, especially when you have mixed damage on the team, and you don't necessarily want to go for two tank items because you're Riven and not someone like the typical top lanes like Shyvana, like Munu, and in fact Nasus. So you won't be going for those two, and just picking up the Warmog gives you both.
It's that point in the game where one team has quite a large advantage, but just need to consolidate everything. They're in their own jungle, making sure they got the buffs, making sure wards are in place, and just setting themselves up to really pressure that inhibitor that is already exposed in the top lane. Baron isn't due up for a while, so really that's the goal that they're looking for in the top lane. And you can see the members of Lololol are already starting to rotate up there, and JWoww may be leading the charge.
Yeah, it shows they want to fight, but making sure they have everything before they go for it, and will not be able to collapse quite in time, even though Dafshio is on right behind them, but the warding coverage will not allow them that vision. So the inhibitor is completely open. There is no turret to kind of keep them alive, and oh, the damage already onto Fresh just from that simple combo from Ocelote. Do have Dafshio from the backside, does not land the Vault Breaker, but Kathy is alive, but the rest of the team is not. Mystique drops, so does the Jax, and his team is just disintegrating around him. This is most likely the game.
And a bit of miscommunication there. Dafcio actually ulted onto, I believe it was Ocelote, and then Gragas managed to ult both the carries further back from the fight, so there was no way of cleaning up Yuki and Ocelote in that team. Kathy tries to come out and do something, but he's just not able to put down the damage. That will be game number 1 going to Lololol here. In 35 minutes, they pick up a final kill to ace the team and round out the Nexus as we head to game number 2.
Indeed. So a pretty long game, or it necessarily too, like, I can't even get my words out today, stress. It's been a long day, but maybe the game could have been ended a little bit faster, but they just played it safe and gradually got back the lead just with their gold increase and the big deficit started to create between these two teams. And again, Ocelote's team showing that they're very strong.
Very strong indeed. Now, we're going to head to a commercial break before we get into game number 2 of the series. Keep sending in your tweets as